The Carp 6 is an extremely versatile pole float. That's largely thanks to the fact that it's in 10 sizes from 0.1 gram right up to 1.5 grams. And I've had a great session here today at Bishops Bowl Lakes to prove just how versatile this float is. So let's take a closer look and see what's so special about the Drennan Carp 6. Now the Carp 6 is what I'd class as a classic still water shape. It's very slim and what a lot of people would class as an elongated rugby ball, and that just gives it the maximum amount of sensitivity. You don't need a really round bodied float on 90% of still waters unless the conditions are extremely turbulent and rough. So for me, that's the ideal shape. A nice slim, no nonsense design. And what you'll notice on Drennan floats is the concentricity. I know it's a long word, but if you just spin it in your fingers like that, every single one, there's no wobble there at all. I've seen these machined in Oxford and they spent a long time getting this right. So you pick up any Drennan pole float, the tip, stem and body are all in perfect alignment, and that just leads to better performance in the water. And the other point to note as well is it's got an extra tough and a very special acrylic paint finish on this. Now it is an ultra buoyant balsa body, but you'd never know it if you gave it a squeeze. I mean, I'm squeezing that as hard as I can and that is not compressing the body whatsoever. I mean, I can do it on the bigger floats as well. The acrylic paint finish on these floats is so hard wearing and so tough, and it really cuts down on line damage, and it just makes for a much stronger pole float. Now I've carefully sliced through this one here just to show you the balsa body, the thick acrylic paint finish, and also the extra secure blackened spring eye. Now they're quite unique to Drennan. I've not seen any other floats with these black spring eyes, and they're actually double wound as well, which means there's no little corners for the line to catch and pinch into. So you shouldn't get cut off as you can do with the old style of spring eye. So, and the other thing to notice as well is it's got a hollow 1.5mm glow tip. Now that is actually reinforced into the body with a short fiberglass spigot. So it doesn't just end there, the spigot carries on through part of the tip, and that adds even more strength to the float. So that isn't going to shear off. It's a potential weak spot on any pole float, and on this, the Drennan Carp 6 and all the Drennan Carp float family, they've all got this strengthening spigot. Now these specially banded tips are also really worth a mention. You've either got yellow or red at the top, and then you've got a little black collar and then a yellow part below as well. So these, if you've not tried a banded tip, it's really, I recommend you give them a go, because they really help to accentuate everything that's going on with the float. So when your shot's settling and when your hook bait's settling, you can see everything happening on the float. But the other thing as well, it really helps to accentuate lift bites as well. So if you shot the float to the black collar or just above it, when you get a lift bite, that yellow part will come right into play. And really a bite is unmissable when you use a banded tip. So it's a real nice visual aid for bites. And going on to the float paint itself, these are what we call glow tips, and the light actually illuminates right through them because they're a 1.5mm hollow tip. So yellow used to traditionally be the most anemic colour. It was when it was painted with a white undercoat, yellow never really used to show up, but now we're using hollow bristles. The yellow is actually possibly the strongest colour in mixed light conditions. So it's worth giving a yellow bristle float a try if you've not tried one before as well. Now I've got a 6.5 foot deep swim here at Bishops Bowl today, and I'm trying to use the same float or the same float design but in two completely different sizes to show the two extremes of what you can do with a float. I've got a gram float which is really positive. Got all my shot really low down and a short hook length, so I can see real positive lift bites. And then I've got a 0.3 gram float at the opposite end of the spectrum with number 10s lightly strung out in the bottom half of the rig, and that way I can actually see my bait, I can see my hook bait falling through the water slowly and actually catch some fish on the drop. It's quite a clear venue this, so I've got two extremes there, and the same float can really work at both ends of the spectrum. It's also worth noting that I brought a real mixture of baits with me today. I didn't know, I've never fished this lake here. We're actually on Cliffs Lake at Bishops Bowl, and I've never fished it before, so I didn't really know what to expect. But I brought a variety of baits, and with a 1.5mm hollow tip, it works well with anything you can think of really. I've got corn, pellets, I've got maggots, casters, meat. You know, I've got everything there. The only thing I haven't got is worms, but worms would be just as good with a 1.5mm tip as well. So as I say, it's a really versatile float, and it's been working its magic today. It's been a really good session with what I think is an excellent pole float.